Now, why is Tommy Robinson in prison? Answer: because he's a political prisoner, because he's a dissident, because the rotten, corrupt, treacherous government fears him and has good cause to fear him. They've broken the social contract between the rulers and the ruled, and our politicians have actively sided with an imported people whose culture is utterly at odds with English society. And our politicians have told us that Islam and Africa is their ally and the English and England their enemy. Our politicians have told us they're effectively at war with us. So how do people offer resistance to threats like that? And that all depends on the threat. If a village was threatened by wolves, it doesn't matter what the colour of the villager's skin is or to which god they pray, the resistance to the wolf threat will be based on man v wolf. But what happens when people are threatened with racial and religious dilution and eventual subjugation? Well, if they're very religious, they can resist via their faith, and the Crusades, for example, were fought in the name of Christianity. But England is pretty much a post-Christian country, so a Christian-led counter-revolutionary movement is unlikely to come about. What does this leave then in terms of a defensive rallying point? And that's easy. It leaves race and nation. There are no other defensive weapons. Race and nation is all. And this is why the government fears Tommy. They're aware of the terrible damage they have done to this once great country, and they're aware of the terrible damage they have done to the English people, and in particular to the English working class. And they are acutely aware that a proud working class Englishman who acts as a lightning rod for the valid anger and frustrations of the persecuted English is a far, far greater threat to their power than a peaceful and middle-class Nigel Farage or a Kemi Bad Enoch. Potential violence, riled up working class violence, revolutionary violence, that is what middle class politicians fear the most, and their greatest nightmare is the vision of 1 million angry Englishmen advancing on Parliament with 1 million blazing torches in one hand and 1 million gleaming spear in Jacksons in t'other. And the police couldn't stop such a weight of numbers, and nor could the army. Nothing could. Nothing could. Now, Tommy can organise hundreds of thousands of peaceful protesters today, and as things get worse, and they will get worse, they will get much, much worse, maybe 1 million in a couple of years' time, and maybe 5 million in 5 years' time. Tommy gives the traitor class the screaming heebie-jeebies, which is why the traitor class have illegitimately put Tommy in prison. And what a criminal mistake that was. All it's done is make people angrier than they already were, and much more likely now to get firmly behind Tommy Robinson and maybe even visit a garden centre, as spring approaches.